So hi kawaii babies, sorry I've been gone for so long. I do have some more J fashion videos coming up to my channel soon, so if you're subscribed for that reason, I have like a fashion evolution video I'm working on to show you how I started with Japanese street fashion. So I'm just letting you know that more is coming, but I thought I would start a new series, a video series discussing animes I like, starting with my beloved favorite, which is Pokemon. And I realized there's very little info on how it's different in the Japanese anime than it is in the dub, especially when it comes to Pokeshipping hints. As Melody, back in the year 2008, I had a Japanese friend translate a bunch of Japanese scenes to show people what was said in the original Japanese version of Pokemon. And shout out in the comments if you remember me, because that was a long time ago. I remember I called it my Pokeshipping commentaries. And because of copyright laws, I had my videos removed because I use clips from the actual anime. I had subtitles on them, and that got taken down. And so I made a website that had the translations on there called Melody's Shipping Site. But FreeWebs is no more, so that website is gone too. But I went on my old computer and I found the old translation documents of all the translations, and I was like, awesome, now I can do this video again, and this time I will use screenshots, so I hopefully won't get a copyright strike for making this video. So I'm gonna break this into two parts. The 2000 movie's 20th anniversary is this month, on the 21st. On that day, I will release the translations of the 2000 movie, plus talking about Shudo Takashi's translated novel where he mentions Pokeshipping. And then I'm also going to talk about my thoughts on the adult Misty that we see in the first movie trailer in Japan. So the second one will show up on the 21st this month. So, spoiler warning, if you want to watch the original Japanese anime and be surprised for yourself on how it's different, please don't continue to watch, because I am going to be breaking down all these Pokeshipping hints in the Japanese version of the anime. Side note, I may be using names from the Japanese as well as the English, so just to give you a definition, Kasumi is Misty's Japanese name, and Satoshi is Ash Ketchum's Japanese name. So, starting with the first episode, I don't know if you guys know, but Misty actually slaps Ash in the Japanese version twice. When she sees Pikachu is injured, when she pulls him out of the lake, and also when he makes a stupid comment about Pokemon, she slaps him in the second episode. You know, Misty used to be very violent in the beginning. It was a comedy thing where she had her mallet and she would hit Ash or Brock with it. And that definitely died down, especially they edited out a lot of the violent scenes in the dub. So Misty was she was considered a tomboy, and she was very rough. It is confirmed in the second episode that Misty is 10 years old, the same age as Ash. Because she literally says the phrase, "This is the worst day I've had in 10 years," which confirms that she's 10 years old. She's just taller than Ash, so she's not older than Ash, she's just taller. So, first, there were hints that Satoshi liked Kasumi or had an attraction to her. So, in the Ghost of Maiden Pink episode, Satoshi is so stunned by Kasumi in a kimono that when Kasumi comes up to Satoshi, she asks, "What's with you?" Because Ash was staring at her, zoned out. And so much that Misty had to bring him back to reality. And that dreamy background you see Kasumi in the kimono, that is how Ash or Satoshi is viewing her. Also in the Hypno episode, Satoshi teases Kasumi by saying, "Make yourself kawaiier," or kawaiier, meaning make yourself cuter, which implies that Ash thinks Misty is cute to some degree already. And Kasumi replies to that saying, "I'm cute enough." In the School of Hard Rocks episode, Satoshi says, "Good, they seem to get along again, unlike us, Kasumi." And Kasumi says, "Huh? Well, no wonder, have you forgotten about the bike?" Almost like Ash wishes that, Misty and him were romantic, like the scene between Giselle and the student who had a crush on her. In the Tower of Terror episode, we see Misty or Kasumi worry about Satoshi, And Kasumi is like, Satoshi is late. We should go inside and see what's going on. Brock's like, oh, you're right. Then Ash is like, are you worried or what? Like, similar to the line that he says in the dub, whereas, so you do worry about me, Misty. And the scene where she's like crying because he might be dead, that's all definitely the same in the Japanese version. Now on to the Orange Islands. The first time it's mentioned is when Team Rocket is in the airship, and this is the translation. So James says, haha, it looks like you dumped the other guy and eloped. And then Jesse says, oh dear, isn't that? And Meowth chuckles. And then Ash is like, what are you talking about? And Kasumi's like, indeed, why would I do that with this guy? And then Jesse's like, you're blushing. And then James is like, it's true, it's true. So moving on to the next time it's mentioned in the Orange Islands, where a gym leader named Danny Misty has a crush on him, but he points out that her and Ash are close. So basically Danny says, haha, you two seem to get along well and are close. And Misty's like, huh, we get along? And then Dan's like, yeah, isn't that what they say? Those who argue get along and are close. Later on in the scene where Dan and Ash are climbing up the mountain, Dan says, hey, and then Misty says, Dan, do your best. And Dan says, thank you, Kasumi. And then Misty says, since I'm at it, I'll say do your best too, Satoshi. Well, Satoshi gets mad, like, why is it since I'm at it for me? Which is very similar to the line where she's worried about Dan, and then Ash gets jealous and says, why is she so worried about him for? And of course, Ash falls when he gets distracted and gets mad. And that's when Kasumi yells Satoshi's name because she's worried. Continuing on the later scene, when Tracy and Misty see that Ash has made it to the top and are running toward him, Tracy says, Satoshi, and then Kasumi says, Dan, and runs past Ash, and Ash responds to that, saying, no way, I can't believe it. Like, he's shocked that she's not happy to see him, that she's happy to see Dan, and she asked him, are you alright? Do you have frostbite or anything? No, I'm perfectly fine, Kasumi. I'm literally reading these off of the translation. But, what Ash says in Japanese is basically another translation of, is this possible? I can't believe it, no way. Like, he really thought Misty would run to him. So in the Nidoran episode, Misty says, or Kasumi says, they say you love the ones you hate, right? Besides, I'm sure those two are really attracted to each other. When she's writing the love letter to try to get them together, so their Nidoran can be together. And then Tracy comes up and goes, I think you're right. It's the same with you two, after all. Talking to Satoshi and Kasumi, and they both respond at the same time. We're totally different. And then Tracy says, first they kiss, and then they evolve. They truly are experience. Oh my, Tracy, you're so, is what Kasumi says. Then Satoshi says, huh? Kissing and experience? How are they related? And then Misty responds, that's not for kids like you to know. Which makes sense, because throughout the entire episode, she's like bullying Ash to be too young to understand romance. And it's kind of this comedy thing throughout the episode. So that's a very different from the dub. The dub, Misty literally says, I guess we'll have to find out for ourselves, really suggesting that maybe she wanted to kiss Ash. Anyway, moving on to the Misty Meets Her Match episode. At the end of the episode, Rudy tells Ash, make sure you take care of Misty, or Kasumi-chan is what he says in the Japanese version. And Satoshi's like, huh? What are you talking about? And then Rudy's like, you're such a clueless guy, which is why Ash has an angry look on his face. Because Rudy isn't saying, oh, you'll see someday. He's insulting him by calling him dense, not smart enough to figure out why he has to take care of Misty, like as if he's going to marry Misty. Also, I forgot to add that Rudy does not say she wants him during the battle. He says Kasumi, her name, Misty's name, during the battle. Now, when I heard the original line, when I heard the dub version, the line was, Rudy said, oh, you'll see someday. And I thought that was like foreshadowing that Ash and Misty would get together someday. I thought that was the way of the writers saying, yeah, this is going to happen. It's going to be canon. But as you can see in the original, it's very different. So as you can see, Pokeshipping did exist in the original Japanese anime. The dubbers did make certain lines shippier. Also, Misty's song and Under the Mistletoe do not count as proof that Kasumi likes Satoshi, being the Japanese writers never approved of those songs. However, I will say there is a love song on the Japanese 2000 movie soundtrack called You and Me, sung by Namie Arumo. And in that song, it's a love song. She's singing about fighting for her love. And there's a line in there that talks about saving someone's drowning body, which obviously relates to the scene in the Pokemon movie 2000 where Misty saves Ash. So according to American dubbers, Misty's crush on Ash was canon. But according to Shuto Takashi, a writer that wrote on the Pokemon anime for most of the, for the first 2 seasons and mid-Johto he quit, Kasumi had no romantic feelings for Satoshi. In a blog, he basically says that romance on a kid's show is like adding too many spices to cooking, that it would ruin the show and make it too complex. He also had a lot of hate saying Misty wasn't cute enough for a girl, which he blames on the fact that the Pokemon staff was mostly male at the time of the beginning of writing of Pokemon. He felt he failed Misty as a character because he wanted her to be independent from Ash, not an ordinary girl stereotype where the lead female always falls for the lead male. Because of this, he felt like Misty's existence on the show was weakest, and that's one of the reasons why she was eventually replaced by another female co-star. Now let me read something I read on Tumblr by a user on Tumblr named Shipsinker. They were asked a question, and I'm going to read the question. The question was, I recently heard Takashi Shuto confirmed on his blog that Pokeshipping was made up and he wrote Misty following Ash because she was useless without him. Since you're the #1 ship sinker, I thought I would come to you for confirmation. Do you have any comments on that? And so Ship Sinker says, honestly, this story is odd, and it's something of a rumor, but also has a hint of truth to it. First off, if you don't know who Takashi Shuto is, he was the chief writer on the Pokemon anime beginning in Kanto and to mid-Johto. He did, in fact, post some rather revealing thoughts on Misty and Pokeshipping several years after leaving his position. It's a rather long read, and it includes a insertion that Pokemon was basically a no-hugging, no-kissing show, and it did not just extend to Pokeshipping. Shuto was actually very adamant and that there was no romantic relationships at all when he was running the show. But this is far from news. People were aware of his stance much earlier than this, and quotes from him have circulated the internet dozens of times. It's clear in the article that he had a pretty harsh opinion of Misty as a character as well as a love interest. He got a lot of crap for it too. I won't be the first person to point out that the article was borderline sexist. However, every time a pseudo rumor makes its rounds, it seems to be a misunderstanding that the buck stops at Shuto, when it really doesn't. While Shuto's role as chief writer was an important one, the actual list of positions and the production team had a little bit more of a hierarchy than the blog post lets on. He was in charge of important decisions during his run, but producing the anime is more complicated than that. He did not get the final say in everything. This is less word of God and more of an opinion of Gabriel. It's interesting note that Shuto did not like Pokeshipping or Misty, but the bottom line is both got into the show, regardless. Another interesting thing you will note is that he actually wrote the Pokemon movie 2000, otherwise known as the biggest hint that people bring to debate about Pokeshipping ever. It has been suggested by more than a few people, using complex clues along with various interviews and MIDI evidence, that some of the higher-ups forced Pokeshipping into the anime against Shuto's wishes to appeal to certain fans. It has also been suggested that some other writers simply didn't give a crap what Shudo said and put it in anyway. Regardless of which theory you subscribe to, Pokeshipping existence in the early anime is undeniable. If I thought I could win a ship debate with these blog posts, I would have used them ages ago. It feels admittedly awkward to have to make a public post defending existing of a ship, but you will likewise never see me foolishly claim that Serena doesn't have a crush on Ash, or Kenny doesn't have a crush on Dawn. Evidence is everything. And there's more than enough solid, objective hints that conclude that Misty has a crush on Ash, despite Shudo's wishes. All this reminds me of an interesting debate I once read on a subject on superheroes, though. The argument went something like this. Word of God is not always good enough. If Stan Lee had an interview tomorrow and told everyone Spider-Man punches were powerful enough to crack the planet in half, we would be under no obligation to believe him. Spider-Man has never shown power anywhere near that big, and the evidence that is inconsistent with the Word of God, and the Word of God can be wrong. Interesting principle to think about. Either way, Shudo was never God. He hasn't been pseudo-God since mid-Johto, and Pokeshipping lives another day. Throws confetti with no enthusiasm whatsoever. Can I go back to pursuing now? I love your sense of humor, ship sinker. Yeah, so Shudo wrote on Pokemon till mid-Johto, and it's interesting because when he retired, that's when they started to bring hints about Misty liking Ash back into the show. And I'm going to go and translate those hints, the Johto hints, the 2000 movie, and then the Johto hints in the next video. So look out for that. But thank you. This is my video. Like and subscribe. And thank you so much, Kawaii Babies. Bye.